Hey, how's it going? So, I just want to give a quick update on my possibly moving situation. It's been about 4 days since I contacted the manager's office here, and a maintenance guy has come by a couple of times, and they shut off the water, so it's not actively like pooling up on my floor. But the carpet itself is so saturated, and then the little squishy liner underneath the actual carpet is, everything's got to be wet, because even though the water is no longer flowing from wherever it was coming from, whatever is in the carpet still is just getting, like, every time I roll on it or somebody walks on it, it squeezes out this poop looking juice. um, it's just dirt from in the carpet, which, they want you to. Well, anyway, I was just going to say that carpet cleaners, like, leave a lot of dirt in the carpet, is what I'm discovering from this experience. But anyway, I had a piece of paperwork I needed to give to the new manager, and so I was in there today, and I was like, "So you have to, like, come check out the situation in my apartment with this water damage?" And she's like, "Oh, we're just gonna send the carpet cleaner over, and then we'll see after that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I think you should, like, come over and personally take a look." So I did get her to finally come over, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't realize it was this bad." And I was like, "Yes, that's why you had to come look for yourself," even though I told her, and the maintenance guy surely told her how bad it was. Anyway, I got her over here. She's very young, and the maintenance people are new people. And I didn't have any problems with the maintenance people before. They were not really in charge of anything. But I have recently found out that the previous managers or something, I don't know, there's something hinky going on with this company. But this girl is, like, young and hopefully unblemished. And maybe we'll get this taken care of before whatever the company was imposing on other people they start to do to her. Because I'm just not sure exactly what happened. It sounds like it wasn't exactly legal, whatever it was, and I don't know. I'm just hearing some weird stuff. But anyway, this girl is new. The maintenance people, I've never seen them before here, so I don't know. Points for that, I guess. But she wants to come in, and she'll offer help, because I don't always have someone here every day to help me. And the days they are here, they're just here for a few hours. So got to really pack in those activities. But, she offered help with, and the maintenance guy and whoever else comes. I have to have help. There's no way I can do it myself. And she wanted me to start, like, while she's getting a bid on a carpet shampooer company and somebody to come do the construction work, she wants me to start moving stuff. But the problem is, space is already at a premium in here, so I can move little things, but I'm not physically capable of, like, seriously moving stuff like furniture and things. I mean, hi, I'm in a wheelchair. So her theory is that they'll just, like, help me gradually move, and they'll just move from room to room and do the whole place. But sort of, I mean, I just see myself being shifted around as they're doing it. So that's a nice idea, and I hope that that works out for her. But I've been here since 2004, and I've actually had the linoleum redone here. Uh, and they didn't do the rest of the place, which is, except for the bathroom, carpeted, because the same reason, like, I don't have help, and I'm not really able to do it myself. But I the other people, the other management, that the last time they wanted to do it, they're like, "Well, we'll help you," and I was like, I'm gonna say no. Like, I really did not want them, like, in my stuff, and my instinct, I guess, turned out to be right, since apparently they're up to some kind of something criminal, which, that's not good. So, yeah. But anyway, her idea is to have the people come in and then, like I said, just gradually move stuff from spot to spot. And if that will work, that's great. But like I said, I've been here and they did another time, another set of management send in people to do the floor. And when they did get the guy in here and he pulled up the linoleum, they wanted him to just, take it away and then throw some more down and stick it on there. But the guy was like, no, because you have to let me work on the floor underneath if you want me to have something to stick the linoleum to. And it took a really long time. It took like all day. And this is a 1-bedroom apartment, which is small. And all he did was like the entryway, which leads into like the dining room-ish thing that's like attached to the little galley kitchen that I'm sitting in now. So what I'm saying is not a big amount of space, but evidently the wood underneath was so screwed up that it just took the guy a long time, and he was really efficient. But like I said, they asked for the cheapest materials, and like immediately the linoleum was wearing through and breaking, and it's like, oh my god, this is so bad. Hopefully the company, I'm sure, is still cheap. We'll see how it goes. But I just have a feeling when they pull up this linoleum, they're not going to be able to just throw some more on there and stick it on. They're going to have to do work. And also, I know that like mold has been eating inside the walls and under the carpets for the whole time since I've been here, since 2004. And that is why I was like, I'm probably going to have to move. And I still kind of think that. I have thought for a long time that these buildings just need to be knocked over, because I'm part of a 1-level but 2 apartment little bungalow thing. And I know that on that side, it caught on fire, and that was when the cheap people were here. So I'm imagining that, well, I don't know. The tradesmen tend to be really honest and don't want to do crappy work. But I have been of the opinion for a long time that these buildings are just like barely holding up, and they need to be knocked down and rebuilt or redone. I'm not a construction worker. I don't know like a lot about this stuff. It's just an instinct, but I will keep you posted. So, anyway, I wanted to also talk about, so I'm not in my usual room, and I had to make a new sort of disclaimer sheet thing, so there it is. And I know I probably chose the wrong color marker. Oh, well, I just hope you can see that, because I can't really move the laptop right now without pulling down my light and everything. So anyway, opinion commentary for your entertainment, and I already talked about an update on my apartment situation. So the other thing up there that I want to talk about is an episode of the Venture Brothers from season 6, episode 4. Nope, season 4, episode 6, called Self-Medication. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Venture Brothers, but it's basically sort of your Hanna-Barbera action favorites like Johnny Quest, and they take a lot of sort of influence, I guess, from other Hanna-Barbera shows. A little bit of like, you'll see like Flintstone style art when they're like in the jungle sometimes, or some joke or some appearance will look like something from the Flintstones or the Jetsons. They really like held on to that sort of Hanna-Barbera vibe, because like if you were a kid during the era where Hanna-Barbera was sort of like everything on Saturday mornings, and they had like this whole just array of shows, and usually with that kind of thing, like they get something good, like one style good, and they'll start to make clones of it. So it was good for a while, and then everything got really clony, and also behind the scenes, like management or ownership will change of the company of it, the cartoon company itself, or the television network they're dealing with. Like all kinds of stuff can change, and the economy will change, and viewership will change and shift, like that sort of earnings demographic, I guess you could call it. But it's just like it's funny. It's well written, and it's funny, And they they look. I always thought that the two guys that made it together, the Venture brothers, were younger than me, but I'm thinking they might be around the same age because like they have a lot of music in there of like the era that's completely like recognizable to me, and it's like David Bowie or music from the 90s and all this clever sort of pop culture stuff woven into it. It's just really enjoyable for me to watch. And there's a this episode is kind of like about all of everybody. They're all about this, but it's kind of about everyone's sort of mental health issues. And so it starts out with Rusty Venture, who he's like a main character of the show, and he's the father of the Venture brothers. And he is a super scientist from a line of super scientists. He's not a very good one, not like his father. And he's in the opening part of the show, this episode, Rusty is in a fight with his arch enemy, the Monarch. And okay, the Monarch was a guy, and I guess, well, not I guess, I've seen the show, so this is how it went. He had like a wealthy family, sort of like the Bruce Wayne story. He had a wealthy parents, and then they were tragically killed. Except there was no Alfred for him. He was like, I think that there was a plane crash, I believe is what happened, and he wandered away. The boy who grows up to be the monarch, and instead of somebody finding him right away, he ends up bonding with butterflies and following them on their migration and like wanting to be a butterfly. And um, eventually he gets found by like people, and he gets his inheritance and uses it to become a super villain. And he's obsessed with Rusty Venture. The funny thing about those two is Rusty has the father that was a really good super scientist, but he was also a narcissist and a misogynist. And that dude, like, I always say there's a fine line between really intelligent and insane. That guy was riding that line, and he'd like to slooge over to the like insane side quite a bit. I mean, the kid grew up, Rusty, the cartoon child Rusty, grew up in this house that was like an amalgam of the Playboy Mansion and like Jack Parsons' house. Which, look Jack Parsons up, interesting guy, the father of rocket fuel. Um, and he had a wild house and a wild life. Really, it's interesting. Look it up. But anyway, uh, so Rusty is the monarch is doing things to him, and the monarch's very dramatic, and he's just obsessed with Venture. And I recommend that you go see it. I'm not going to try to explain the whole episode, but I noticed, and you will notice, particularly if you watch the show from like start to finish, that for one thing, Dr. Venture and the Monarch have like a really close resemblance, except for a couple of things, and that's interesting. I don't want to give anything away. I usually do, but I don't care this time. I mean, I do care, actually. Because normally I'm just all, yeah, spoilers, gonna happen. Get yourself ready for that. But anyway, The other thing, another small spoiler, is there's a lot of cloning that goes on in that show, like cloning of human people. So that's something to remember if you ever watch it. And another character is Sergeant Hatred, which in this episode he's kind of prominent because he's gone from being another one of Dr. Venture's, Rusty's super villain arch enemies to becoming like his replacement for Brock as bodyguard. Oh, Brock, you don't know who Brock is. Well, anyway, he replaces the previous bodyguard, but he's not as good as the other guy was, and he has an interesting history. Sergeant Hatred. He was in the OSI, which is sort of like the show's equivalent of like early CIA, I guess, pre-CIA, and I have a pizza in my oven. uh, he was a super spy and a super soldier. Everything is super in this show, and he loses that, and then he becomes a super villain, and then he's part of the Guild of Calamitous Intent, and then he's not in that anymore, and he ends up being the bodyguard and basically babysitter for the Venture brothers. But the weird thing is like the guy's a pedophile, and everybody knows he's a pedophile, including Rusty Venture, the Venture brothers' father. And yep, I mean nothing happens. You never see Dr. Hatred doing any pedophile things with any kids, but they talk about it, they joke about it. In fact, the episode has a part where the grown-up boy adventurers are at a group therapy session, and Action Johnny, who is like the equivalent of Johnny Quest from, like I said, the Johnny Quest show I was talking about earlier, and Dr. Venture is there because he and Johnny were both boy adventurers and have very similar lives, very similar to the Johnny Quest cartoon, except theirs are like they got screwed up by their lives and their parents, and there's a pair of boy detective brothers that grew up, and one's like super abusive to the other. And I think you're supposed to think of the Menendez brothers because their father is dead and they weren't able to solve the mystery, and no one was. And I guess people are looking at them. Those characters have shown up only that one time in the series, so. But they say that like people are looking at them about the murder. And the reason why I kind of equated them to the Menendez brother, because like one's like kind of a stronger, more aggressive personality, and the other one is more vulnerable and emotional. And the one stronger guy is totally a bully to the younger guy. But they have like shirts with sweaters tied around their necks, like total preppies, yuppies. And one actually has a tennis racket, and all of those things are very Menendez related. And then one of the other people at the therapy session was a robot boy who I guess has Pinocchio problems, yearnings, and wants to be a real boy, and like wants to be loved. He just wants to be a real boy. So that's weird because he's like a total robot and can like fly and stuff. And so and also I don't think I ever saw that character before or again. Is that all? Oh, and there was another, yeah, that's right. So there was another character that was a superhero that sort of was, I don't know, ambiguous, because he was also a super villain as far as I'm concerned, because he was another like pedophile, because he would always have these boy sidekicks. And the other member of this group for the therapy session is a former sidekick of this superhero slash villain guy, and he sort of got too old to still be attractive to the super villain slash hero. And his deal is that he doesn't know what to do with himself since he's no longer going to be that sidekick, and he says that he can't even get off anymore unless there's a ticking time bomb attached to his chest. or something like that. Definitely a time bomb attached to his chest. The ticking, I don't know if that was there or I added it or what, but it was active. So it's got to be dangerous, and that's all of those. Oh, and Rusty Venture's thing is that he his premature ejaculation in the episode. I would say I would venture Dr. Venture has other problems, but yeah, that was his thing, and so they are like real ailments and or conditions that you would have in real life on the side of the screen, which made me start thinking about sort of the contrast between this world and that one. With the superheroes and the supervillains and the guild and all of this, you would think it would be really chaotic and the world would be a wreck and a mess the way it is in like a Superman movie or, you know, one of those Avengers movies where, or in the comic books where buildings and just all kinds of property where people tend to be gets totally destroyed and mangled and, you know, exploded. Like, you know, and so this stuff happens, but the villains and the heroes in this Venture Brothers world, they just do it to each other. And sometimes, like, the normies in the normie world get affected by it, but nothing like in a regular comic book or DCMU or Marvel movie universe thing. Like, it's weird. And in the contrast to real life, they don't have like mass shootings. They don't have like the people that are not super something are fine. They're not like they just get along and doing their stuff, you know, like, you know, the super people will have their super vehicles and they'll be strangely shaped or themed like after their character, and you know, they're odd. They're not just a regular car, and some of them fly and things. And you know, there'll be some just regular people like a road crew, and they'll be like, "Oh, you have to like wait," or you know, they'll be in just like this real normal situation, and the normal people are just like, "Yeah, we have like super people that look weird, no problem, just stay there or go." In fact, in one episode, they're like, there was a cop and they're like talking to these super people, and he's like, "You got to clear out and get your machines and everybody out of here because the Macy's parade is coming." So it's like this world where it's to us very strange and weird stuff happens, but it's also like pretty normal. Uh, and okay, so they they have like a chaotic world in the Venture Brothers, but not like the one here that we live in. Okay, so I had some. I took a bunch. Well, I mean, I have a bunch of notes, but there were some things I definitely wanted to touch upon. I always do this. I always lose my things. I think what the thing that I found was an interesting contrast was that in the show, stuff goes on that's crazy. So I started to talk about what happened in the opening of this episode. This is the second time I'm doing this, so I might be thinking of myself saying it in the other previous recording that I'm not going to use, and that is that I always my explanation makes me forget what I was saying. I don't know, just that there's a lot of cruelty and violence and hatred in this world on this side of the screen, or just in reality, where in this other world, like, it's really crazy and chaotic and weird stuff happens, but right in the beginning of this episode, Rusty Venture is being arched by the Monarch, and the Monarch is a villain, but he's part of this guild, the Guild of Calamitous Intent, and they have rules and regulations, and so they're in the middle of this thing, and the Monarch's making one of his dramatic speeches, and I don't know if he's supposed to be scary or you just got to hear it. It's just silly. It's not scary. It's just it's kooky and overly dramatic. Anyway, in the middle of this speech the Monarch is giving to Dr. Venture, Dr. Venture's watch alarm starts going off, and he interrupts the Monarch and he says, "Oh, hold on, we're gonna have to cut this off and come back to it, another time." And the Monarch's like, "What are you talking about?" And his wife is like the one that runs the guild, and I guess she was listening, or they have like a two-way communication system, but Dr. Venture says, "Yeah, I gotta go to therapy. That's what the alarm is for." And the Monarch is like, What are you talking about?" And so his wife that runs the guild, Dr. Mrs. Dr. Mrs. the Monarch. Yeah, Dr. Mrs. the Monarch. Uh, says, "Oh, well, yeah, we have this new thing that the guild came up with where they can have this dispensation to go to like doctor's appointments." And so the Monarch says, "Let me see that regulation." So, because she's in the cocoon, which is his flying super ship, with him. So she gives him the paperwork, and he finds something, and he says, "Oh, well, you got to have a note from your doctor." And Dr. Venture's like, "Yes, I have a note from my doctor. You just have to manipulate my body, such a way," because he was like kind of torturing him. He was like in mid torture when the alarm went off. So he kind of manipulates the doctor's body so he can get the note out of his pocket. He's like, "Yeah, see, I have a doctor's note." So in that crazy, kooky world, there's like rules and lines, and the Monarch protested, but then he got over it. He's like, "Oh, get you good the next time," or something like that. So they're also very different from our world. Ours is very chaotic and cruel, and there are no like super stuff. There's no super stuff sticking to its own realm. It's like we're all kind of getting each other. And the thing about it is, like, it's upsetting. And I come back to this over and over because it's it's easy to forget that, like, maybe all of what's happening, like, yes, everything is happening for a reason. And yes, there's something to the idea that we sort of preordain our lives before we live them. And it's a complex and complicated web of connections that have to make your life do what it's going to do, and then everybody else's life that's around you or attached to you in ways that you know, in ways that you don't know. I mean, there's just so many possibilities and connections that have to take place for each of our lives to go the way that we sort of planned them out prior to being born to work out. And we have free will, so we have some leeway with some things, but some things are fixed that we can't mess with, and some things are flexible and you can. But those are not things that everyone agrees with in my world, everyone else's world, and some people do, some people get the idea, and some people like hypothesize the ideas and don't ever think, well, this could be real. But anyway, when you look at things that way, and when I say when you look at things, I mean when I look at things that way, it's hard to remember to not get caught up in something that's not actually like real, right? This is something that we're doing for these lives that we're living, or for our edification, for our learning about like so many things about ourselves, about the world. And there's so many ways that we can live lives on this planet, and so we can reincarnate and come back and try each different way. And stuff takes a long time, and it's really frustrating and irritating, like politics. But when you consider the fact that, like, so many people are having so many, like, having lives which are making so many things happen that affect so many other things that affect everybody else, it's like this, all these connecting fibers of a whole piece of cloth. um, but it's easy to forget that, like, this is not really us. This is like role playing for us, like we actually exist elsewhere otherwise. I'm not even going to try to explain that right now because I have talked enough. But, no, I think I've talked enough actually. I guess I just would like to say one final thing. I wouldn't mind actually living in the world of the Venture Brothers because, crazy stuff can happen, but the cruelty and violence is not the same as we have here. I guess that's what I get to escape to is the cartoon. Anyway, I think I have made my point about that. It's Venture Brothers. I'm a huge proponent of them, and they are. If you want to see them for free, you can see them on the Cartoon Network, or actually Adult Swim, because it's going to be after 8 p.m. Adult Swim Monday through Thursday nights, and then you can always catch them on HBO Max because that's where they live now. The episodes of Venture Brothers, or the show itself. Which, gosh, it's time for some new episodes. I will put the names of the guys who make this cartoon in the information box, and yeah, that about covers it. Thank you and good night.